Welcome everyone to the 12th podcast. I'm so glad I have this special guest with me today, Caroline B. She is the Senior Vice President at Pico Global. Welcome, Caroline.
Thanks so much, Simon. It's really great to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I'm delighted.
It's my pleasure, and I'm very excited to know more about your life story. What is your life story?
My life story. Okay. Where to start? I guess, do we start when I'm born, or is that too long?
We have an hour. You can fill it up the way you want.
Okay, let's start with... so I'm born Scottish, so hopefully everyone understands my English. I've been practicing English all my life, but it's still not perfect. But yes, we'll start with born in Scotland. In Edinburgh, just south of Edinburgh, and I left Scotland to work in Bermuda, of all places.
Wow.
When I was 24 years old. And like all expats, or like most expats, you leave your country, I'll go away for a couple of years, and then I will come home and nest and roost. And I'm still traveling, so I've traveled.
You never stopped.
I haven't stopped. I've pretty much traveled most parts of the world. Been very, very lucky, Simon, with the jobs I've had that have taken me all over the world. I'm now in the events, exhibition, marketing services sector, but I started my career in insurance. So I started in Edinburgh. I was a trainee insurance broker. So I took 1 year out before going to university because I wasn't sure what course I wanted to take. So I had a few options, and at that time my English teacher said, you know what, if you're not 100% sure what you want to do, take a year out and just think about it. So I took a year out, went as a trainee insurance broker, and never looked back. In the first year I doubled my salary which was a little salary at that time, doubled my salary because we did some additional work on a Saturday morning. Basically, we opened an insurance and financial services unit in a newsagent in Scotland. So my salary had doubled because of that. And then once you start earning money, it's very difficult to look back and go back to a full-time studying. So my company sent me to day release classes for my insurance qualification. So I'm associate of the Chartered Insurance Institute, now a fellow of the Chartered Insurance Institute. So I worked in insurance until I was about 30, actually, and then I had a change of career. So I've quite an interesting career trajectory. And then I've been in this business that I'm in now for 20 or so years. But quite an interesting change of career along the way, from insurance, underwriting, reinsurance broking, to go into events. So
that's very interesting. And also because... in my profession, we deal with insurance companies, so I did not expect that you will have a personal work experience with that industry. But you can see that life can take you in funny ways to new places.
Yeah.
And how did you come to Dubai? Because you went to Bermuda. And then I think there's a little step between Bermuda and Dubai.
Yeah, a good few countries in between, including Nigeria. I was general manager of a hotel in Nigeria as well, which is probably the stint that I could write most about. But Dubai is interesting. So I was in London. I was running Europe for Pico at the time. And then our chairman wanted to have a senior executive for the region, for EMEA, Europe, Middle East and Africa. So he asked me to take on the role, but to be based out of Dubai because we have a much bigger office here than we do in Europe. So he offered me the position and a transfer to the UAE, which was not in my plan either, in my life plan, if I ever had a life plan.
You were like, I'm finally back.
Exactly, I'm back home in the UK. And then off I went again after a couple of years. So the idea was, Simon, in the beginning, and this is how life just, you can make the best plans in the world, but life can take you on another course. So the plan was that I would be in the UK and London the first week of every month, and I would be here 3 weeks of every month, which I thought is great. I have the best of both worlds. So that was November 2019. And then lo and behold, just when the COVID-19 virus was born, was the same time I took on a new role in the events world. So it's been quite a tough, challenging journey over the last 2 years since I took on the role here in the UAE.
Yeah. So how was that to start in such a difficult situation and rise up from the bottom towards finding an upway hill?
I'd say, very challenging. And I think most leaders in business will say exactly the same thing. There's no textbook, even if I had done an MBA, there's no textbook taught anyone how to cope with this situation, with a global pandemic situation. So it was very much just working things out day by day, minute by minute, hour by hour. I remember January 2020 calling a crisis meeting with my management team. And I remember saying, God forbid, Expo could be postponed or cancelled. And everyone looked at me like I had two heads. I mean, no one saw what was coming with the pandemic in January 2020. Everyone was talking about, okay, by the end of this year, we'll be through the worst of the virus. By January 2021, we'll be in a good position. Then we come to the end of the year, then there's another bad situation. Then there are variants. And really my whole objective was just to survive, was just to stay as whole as we possibly could, keep our team intact, hunker down, pivot our business to as much business that was COVID agnostic in that sense. So doing projects that were not event and exhibition related because no one was going anywhere. There was total lockdown, but moving to doing projects that were more like interior fit outs, retail fit outs, themed environments, museums, longer tail projects, which kept the team busy. Similar skill set to our project management in events and exhibitions. And then of course virtual events just,
those rose up.
They did. They just,
They just popped up out of the nowhere.
Right. Not really out of nowhere, Simon, because that's interesting. Because when I was working out of Singapore, must be about 13 years ago when virtual events came to our world. And at that time, I remember as industry professionals, everyone was panicking, saying, "Oh my goodness, virtual events are going to take over. We're going to lose our jobs. The event industry is going to go, down the tube." But they came and they went. Basically, they garnered little following, and so they were still in our mix. I've always said that there is a place for virtual events, or the virtual environment in terms of content, keeping content live, having a better reach for your content, or an on-demand reach for your content. But it can't be the sole tactic, if you like, to replace events or exhibitions, because people need, to have that human interaction. So we pivoted to virtual as well and developed a suite of virtual events. Met every virtual platform from a tech perspective that was on the market, and then took our clients on that journey with us. So that was interesting for 18 months. Again, it just kept as much revenue as we could garner just to keep us afloat was generally our target. So many of our competitors sadly have closed their doors, gone bankrupt. And haven't been able to survive, the storm. Where we were blessed in many ways because the diversity of our projects, our portfolio, that we could at least, keep a strong team together. So we talk about now we call our day-to-day endeavours Project Phoenix. Basically, the Phoenix rising from the ashes of COVID is our pet project for now. So
that's great.
Yeah.
And I think you can sit down and say, "Oh, everything is happening, it's out of my control." Or you can say, "What can I do to make it slightly better every single day?" And then if you have that attitude, you will find solutions, or you find ways, like how your company found ways to keep the majority of the team intact and busy, and also generate revenue. So now that period is finished, how is the event industry doing right now?
Great. There's been literally a tsunami of demand has come back. I think partly brands have some savings as well, because they kept a lot of their marketing dollars, especially the brands who were in a good business during COVID. So there's quite a bit of marketing dollars there. I think brands are keen to be seen again. They're keen to participate, especially in trade shows and exhibitions at varying levels of spend. And then if we look specifically at this region, Simon, there has always been a huge appetite for the wow factor, the biggest, the best, the never seen before tactic or digital engagement or whatever it might be. So that keeps us on our toes. I have to say. So our business has come back, and it's come back with a vengeance. Certainly in this region, for sure.
Okay. So and which type of events do you see particularly booming right now?
The trade show world has I would say has always had a place. I mean, of course, I really believe in trade shows and the ecosystem of a trade show. And I think in general, the brands, the clients that we're speaking to very much feel that as well. Having had 2 years of trying to sign deals or fulfill contracts virtually or remotely, people are so excited to be all back in a convention center and in an exhibition hall, meeting people, shaking hands and doing deals again in an ecosystem. And I really feel the place for trade show now is being endorsed in a way. Because there's always been a lot of questions pre-pandemic. Do people really want to travel? We want to save our planet. We don't want to we want to be carbon neutral. We don't want to get on planes unnecessarily. But I think now people are genuinely seeing the benefit of getting industry experts, all of the industry experts in one place at one time, and discussing the challenges of industries and doing deals with industry the industry ecosystem. So it's always been an interesting conversation of where trade shows will go long term. And I feel that the endorsement is there now, that people really understand it. And we've been lucky here as well with the local government here in the UAE, along with the Trade Centre, Dubai Tourism, really continuing to support the industry, the MICE industry as well, to continue its endeavours. So I think we're particularly blessed here. But certainly in Europe, we're starting to see a lot of the major trade shows coming back in the major markets like Germany, for example, who have traditionally conducted some of the biggest, trade shows, and they have the biggest trade show halls in the world as well. Things are coming back, and the event industry professionals are busy. Yeah, very busy.
And I think that sometimes you need to take a step back to make 2 steps forwards. But of course, COVID was not a step back that nobody wanted. But I do feel this excitement now, that people are extra excited to go to events, extra excited to meet new people, and that's a great thing.
Absolutely, yeah. GITEX here is the big tech show in this market. So GITEX continued last year, again with a lot of uncertainty. And again, a lot of the brands were either decided not to exhibit or reduce their exhibit size. But at the show, you could really feel the energy. It was one of the first shows to come out the gate, and for people to resume. Yes, they had social distancing, and the Trade Centre were fantastic in terms of recycling the air and doing all these things that were, made sure people felt safe in that environment. But at the show, you could literally feel the electricity. I could feel the electricity. Yeah.
I was not
Energy.
there, but I know people in my network that were there, and I saw the pictures and the videos, and it was definitely more exciting than I saw before COVID, where it happened. And it was more like a routine then, and now it was more like
let's all get there.
A D-Day moment, like we can storm the beaches again, and
exactly. Even though tech, it's not always the most exciting subject. It was a kind of festival atmosphere there, which was great.
That's good. And of course, I think Expo was something that helped a lot for the event industry, having such a large ongoing event happening, and the traction that it had for businesses coming towards Dubai, and also a lot of smaller events inside of Expo. Was your company involved in Expo?
Sure.
And if so, how were they involved?
Yeah, we did quite a lot at Expo. So we there was a few pavilions that we built entire shell and core. Okay. A few of the assisted pavilions. We did the internal experience design and fit out. And then we ran operations for a few of the pavilions as well. So we were involved, 2 years prior to the Expo taking place here in Dubai. So we have a special projects team from our head office in Hong Kong that work on all these mega projects around the world. So you're absolutely right. Expo is a great catalyst for this region as well in terms of driving footfall, bringing in, incoming tourists and visitors as well who were coming for Expo, especially towards the end. The latter 3 months, I would say, was, had a lot of hype about it. And just the atmosphere there and was amazing. And the entertainment, the events that were taking place in the exhibitions, in the general space out at Expo was really fantastic. And I think that's been a good catalyst as well to help our industry as a whole.
So I mean, my coach, his name is Dave Crane. He's very involved in the event industry as a speaker, as a MC, and he's been doing very big events like 1.6 billion people with the cricket events and smaller events as well. But he has always been telling me that the event industry will come back, and that it will come back in a way that it will be just reinventing itself. And also now you have this hybrid form where you have the. My wife was 2 months ago at an event where you had people visiting and also people tuning in through live streams. So that is also popular right now.
Absolutely. Hybrid is the part of the phoenix that's come out of the ashes. Yeah. And I think there will always be a place for hybrid, Simon, really. And again, as I said earlier, that the content that organizations prepare for an event is very powerful. It's very strong. And it's a shame that you prepare so much content, video assets, PowerPoint slides, you name it, and it's only used for one day for an event or a few hours for an event. You can take all that content, put it in an online environment, extend your reach for people who can't get to the event, for people who don't want to come to the event, but they'd like to consume the content. So you can reach out and put that content available on demand for people, for as long as it might be relevant. So I think in terms of a return on investment for content developers, it's the whole hybrid mechanic is brilliant. Is brilliant. And we're doing just took a brief this morning for a client who's doing an event in Houston, Singapore, Beijing and London, and she's going to connect them all for 2 hours in the morning and then 2 hours at the end of the day with the challenges of the time zones. So we're working out how we can the best times to connect the teams. It's an internal event for one of our clients, but it's really interesting, and we're looking at some really cool ways of gamification and team building that she wants to do online with the teams around the globe. So our clients are challenging us every day on how we can do it better.
New possibilities, right?
New possibilities, keeps us on our toes.
I like that. And your company is founded in Hong Kong, right?
We founded in Singapore.
So
okay. We're the brainchild of a family of nine brothers, a Singaporean family. But now we're listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. So our corporate HQ is in Hong Kong in that sense, but we've still got a pseudo mothership in Singapore as well. We have a big office out in Singapore.
Yeah. And how are things in that part of the world? Because what I hear is that of course if you look at events, it's a very big market as well, the Asian market. Have they picked up the events, or are they still a little bit lagging behind with some other parts?
Depends on which country you look at, because they're all whether North Asia, if you're looking at Japan or Korea or China. China currently is on or Shanghai is on a complete lockdown as they look for zero case scenarios. So when we were building our business up very nicely back in Shanghai, then very suddenly we were locked down, pretty much overnight. And I think maybe they reckon beginning May, we will be able to go back to our office, but how quickly the confidence will come back for events and exhibitions is still a question mark. But I mean, you're right, the sheer volume of some of the markets in the Far East are, things can bounce back very, very quickly. But of course, China's very sensitive to the whole situation.
Yeah.
Southeast Asia is again different in different markets. And then it depends if you're looking at what types of projects you're looking at, whether you're looking at B2B, business to business side, or business to consumer side as well, with travel restrictions and things like that. So there's a lot of moving parts, around the globe. And that's one of our challenges, really, especially when clients want to do cross-border projects, is, keeping on top of all of the regulations for travel and PCR tests and vaccinations and all of that good stuff. That's it's another thing that's thrown into the mix, not only for complexity but for budget as well.
Of course,
you need to reserve a big budget for it.
Imagine if like key people cannot come because they test positive, for example. Yeah. How do you deal with that?
Yeah.
Or now it's I don't know if you're facing difficulties with shipping things, delays.
Yeah, a lot. This global semiconductor crisis is giving us huge challenges because we rent or purchase a lot of hardware, especially touch screens and things like that. And we do a lot of things in digital engagement at the cutting edge of digital engagement. And really everything's, affected by this global semiconductor shortage. So it's giving us a lot of challenges. Yeah. And also that, to your point, if a speaker is not available, can't turn up, that our risk assessment method statements changed a lot since before the pandemic. You plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, and we've dispatched kits very much like this setup to speakers, and then actually literally ran the show remotely for speakers, taught them how to set up the lighting, which is right for them, the sound, do the sound test and everything, and then record them remotely. So these are the things that we've had to find ways around, so business, can go on as best as it can, in that sense.
And where do you see the most added value of Pico providing in events? Like, where do you see, compared to the other market players, companies come to you and say, this is why we work with you, or this is why we need your support to make this happen?
Yeah, in terms of differentiator, I would say definitely our size, Simon, just being such a big organisation, and the different types of projects that we work on, the different brands, the different industries that we work in. A lot of agencies are very industry specific. They might work in automotive or pharmaceutical, but we work. There's almost no industry sector that we don't touch.
You would do them all.
We'll do them all. So that we learn so much across the business from things that we're doing in different industry sectors and in different countries as well. So we have a really cool information sharing platforms where We learn what our guys are doing, in China from a digital engagement perspective. Really cool, new cutting edge digital software that they share with us over here, so we can bring in some really interesting things over here, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So just having that mass of a team just gives us so much best practice and idea sharing. I would say is probably, in addition to, great purchasing power and things like that across the business. Yeah. And we've been around a long time. I think being old is good.
I think more than 50 years, right?
More than 50 years. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 52 years.
That's also helps because you have like a generational experience.
Yeah.
And then when a crisis hits, there's always somebody there like, hold on, I've been there.
Exactly right. Yeah. And sometimes it's exactly that, because it's interesting. In our world, most people of my generation, we fell into events. We don't choose events as a career. And then maybe about 20 years ago, event management degrees or diplomas started to be developed. And I still to this day think, what can you teach someone from a textbook? And you have to go through hiring the wrong truck, or the truck not turning up, or you have to kind of go through all of that, I feel, to really be able to, think on your feet and work out, the solutions, because things never go as they're planned, to go in our world. So, so it's interesting from how the event management industry has developed.
Yeah.
Over the years, and now there are masters in event management, and which is great. So people are choosing events as a bona fide career now, which 2 decades ago wasn't the case. You just fell into events, and from all sorts of backgrounds, insurance, and make a career out of it. So
let's talk a little bit about that, because there's great life lessons to be learned. For especially for the people that want to start their career. What do you think somebody should know and have to be successful in this industry?
I say the most important thing is common sense, real base common sense. You can really think very fast, come up with solutions very fast, and be very grounded and ready to do whatever it takes to get the job done. I think that's the key things for success. If you are, an AV technician, and you definitely wouldn't, go and sort out the registration badges, there's something wrong. So whatever you're doing in your event world, you just have to be ready to muck in and get the job done. I think that's if you're looking at skills or natural qualities, I think common sense is one of the most important.
Yeah. Okay. Common sense, being a quick, thinker and acting fast. And I think also, if I look around at the people at events that always impress me, are also the people that can do so many things at the same time.
Multitasking.
Yeah,
you're right.
Unbelievable. It's like this happening, and they just stay calm and doing it.
Yeah.
Hardworking. It's not a desk job, right?
It's not. No, it isn't. But that being said, the planning is really important. Making sure you've thought about all the aspects is really important. What you put in the planning will definitely manifest itself in the execution.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit about leadership as well, because you've been such a strong presence in multiple markets, from Asia to Middle East to Europe. So you have seen the different ways of working. Where do you see the differences between European events being managed compared to the Middle East, compared to Asia?
I would think one of the important things is lead time. Is lead time and expectations. And clients' expectations of their agency. Some clients just expect you to, just do what you're told. I want this to be, square or round or blue or white or red, and just make it happen. And some clients are much more consultative. How do you think this should look? What would you do to give me the best outcome for my objective, right?
So where do you see the first type of client, and where do you see?
So in Asia, there are a lot of just order taking from the agency, right? You do jump and say yes, how high? I'll do exactly what you asked me to do. Whereas on the flip side, in the US, definitely, and in Europe, you will find clients who are actually very clear in their objectives. This is what success looks like to me. How can you help me along that journey? So what we offer, in terms of agency and agency services in these markets, really quite different. And here in the UAE, you have a bit of everything.
Because you have a bit of everybody
because
here.
We have a bit of everything. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly right. But we do try. We do try to add value. That at the end of the day, that's why you hire an agency, to make a difference, to move the needle, to raise the bar a bit better, whether it's in your creative, whether it's in your content, or your delivery. That's how I would hope that we would be engaged by a client.
But I think it's sometimes always good to be having a partner that can consult you as well. So if you have the Asian style, which is of course because of cultural background, where we say how we want it and you do it, but sometimes what you want is not always right, and it would not lead to success. So you need to have also that space where you accept expertise. So I think that might be always the balance to be found, because you have the client relationship with the corporate company.
Yeah, and that's often the challenge. One of the biggest challenges is often within our clients. There are several stakeholders as well. Yeah. So you have different people working, in different ways as well. So again, how they would engage the agency could be very different between 1, 2, or 3 people, or when the boss comes to make the decision, it could be something completely different again. So that's part of, you're asking earlier, what's the characteristics, the best characteristics to have as a agency, is definitely that diplomacy and the ability to this came from my insurance background, actually, the ability to say your claim isn't covered, but still have your client smile and say thank you very much.
Yeah. You're also a diplomat.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so many things you need to be, which is not written in the books.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think the event industry is something that I guess with the new metaverse happening as well, which is creating a lot of buzz. How do you see events in the virtual world? Literally, are you guys talking about ideas about how you can have a role in that world as well?
Yeah, definitely. But even going back to Second Life, you remember Second Life? That's
a while ago.
That's a long time.
I'm getting old.
Show your age. But definitely. But during COVID, when we were working on virtual events, we were creating a lot of that type of environment. So depending on what who the client was and what they needed, we were creating exactly that type of environment online for interaction and engagement in an event. So we were already, kind of on that journey, I would say, when we already pivoted to virtual. So you'd have some virtual events that are very, very vanilla, and, a person speaking to an audience and a Q&A and ability to raise your hand and, ask questions, maybe a panel discussion. But then we create other environments that were literally, a theme park and people team building and sharing information, exchanging information, and all sorts of and all sorts of things like that. So we're already on that journey, and it's interesting what's coming, through with crypto and NFTs and things like that in our world. Too, I just took a brief for something for decorating a car during F1 and an NFT, and I was like, gosh, here we go, here's another thing to learn. That's that every day is a school day in our world, in the events world. It's that keeps us sharp.
And where do you see the growth now? Because it's picking up, of course, the business coming back from COVID, so you have the lost business that is bouncing back. Do you see in general certain areas where you did not expect that growth will happening right now?
I think in terms of geography, we're looking at Saudi for major growth in this region. Anyway, big plans for the 2030 vision, and big plans for the cultural sites, the heritage sites, and our business in general. So that's what we are eyeing up from a growth perspective. Here in Dubai, it's hard to say where we're going to go. I think it's a big question mark on where the market's going to go post Expo. There's so many interesting things happening in this region. The FIFA World Cup happening in Qatar at the end of this year, and then right on the back of that, we go into the World Horticultural Show in Qatar. There's so many major events happening in this part of the world as well. I think that's where we see a lot of growth opportunities for us as well. Then looking from a brand perspective, I think continuing in trade show, I believe will continue for the foreseeable future, but a diversion of a lot of spend into your own proprietary events and controlling your content, controlling your audience as well. So but certainly for us, we're looking at Saudi as our main growth opportunity for this region. Yeah,
I'm hearing some exciting things about it, like NEOM, the Red Sea development. Also outside of those areas, there's a lot of things happening, a lot of bars, like even big festivals are being organized there. It's all happening, and it's moving fast. So that's something unexpected, right? When you looked at the market initially, when you came here, you did not think that Saudi at that time would be a potentially big market player.
Such a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
And if we get it right, our potential could be, if we look back at when we started in China. I remember going in, as employee. I wasn't employee number 1 and number 2, but I remember employees number 1 and number 2 going in to China, and now we're huge organizations. So I see that same potential, obviously not on the same scale, but incredible potential in Saudi. So it's exciting. Very exciting times for the region.
And what about Africa? Where do you see that market going? Because it's a fast-growing GDP, many countries, a lot of investments from China and internally as well. Do you see that also translating into trade shows and in events where international players are invited, and there's that synergy happening at this moment? Yeah,
we're also already seeing it. We don't have a physical office in Africa. It's part of my region, so we will go in and do events there. I do see opportunity, but I see slow growth. I see very slow growth there. Certainly the oil and gas is an industry that we're quite heavily involved in, so we see opportunity there. But I think it's definitely slower than we'll see in this region.
So maybe that's like a project for after this the growth cycle here maybe at one point it might slow down, and then Africa starts to accelerate, and then you can keep yourself busy in that way.
Exactly right. What would I be doing after?
Yeah, exactly. And then China opens up, and then it's the biggest
global
market in the world.
Back.
Yeah. And how about the US? How are things going there? Because they love their trade shows. They really love it, right?
They do. They do. And they've got amazing space, which I'm always jealous of, especially when our clients come and they want, 1,000 hotel room nights for three nights, and I want exclusive on the hotel, and you're like, gosh, it's like gold dust to find in Europe. It's what you can count them on the
Las
fingers
Vegas.
of one hand. Exactly. Vegas, Florida, they've got fantastic properties and fantastic venues. The States is interesting. We have a lot of tech clients as well, so quite a lot of tech clients from the West Coast that we're working with. So we have four different operations in North America, and all doing really well, and good opportunity over there. And I haven't been there for a few years since the pandemic hit. So we're our company, partly because most of our business is in Asia at the moment, and they're really looking to Europe and to the Americas from a Pico Group's perspective to grow.
Yeah, but I can also imagine organic growth. So you have companies that are Asian based, and then they want to expand.
Yeah.
And then they do the road shows and events in Europe and in the US. And of course, they don't want to go with a new party.
Yeah,
go with
absolutely.
that trusted party.
Yeah, electric vehicles, Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers are popping up everywhere.
Oh yeah, but
that's great.
Yeah, but when I was there in 2016, it's been already 6 years. But it was like as if I went ahead, in time, with many of their places, their infrastructure, the cities, and there's no country on that scale that is already that advanced. On that scale, really, if you travel like 1,000 kilometers inside of the country and compare it with another country 1,000 kilometers inside. And then the electrical vehicles was already something which was starting there, I can just imagine they're buzzing to export what they can offer the world right now, which is alternative vehicles, for a price which nobody can compete with.
That's right. Well, a good price, and and reasonable quality.
Yeah, it's getting better as well.
The quality. Yeah, it is. Definitely. And there's brands that I've never heard of. Yeah, Paris is our next auto show. Yeah, coming up, and I got a brief yesterday. I hadn't even heard of the brand. No, we were always studying. What is that brand? What is that brand? And we saw 20 brands driving by. And they do get the inspiration from European cars, but that's okay. I recognize that model.
Yes. I'm like, hey, that looks like a Volvo, but it's not the same. But then you go inside of the cars, it's not bad, but you also have, of course, progress is going fast. You see that with the phones as well, how fast they caught up on the phone market.
Yeah, very much so. From the Korean manufacturers, we wouldn't have guessed that. It's true. And so we've two campaigns. So we've got Go East and Go West. So it's the same thing. Yeah. The Western brands who want to penetrate the Chinese market, which is huge. Which
is going to be the biggest internal market in the world soon, bigger than the US, and then growth for another perhaps 50 to 70 years. So if you're in that market, in the internal market, and there are so much consumers, it's just sky's the limit.
And loving the Western brands.
Exactly, that's what people don't understand. That they
brand conscious.
It's vice versa. People are skeptical against them in the West, but they are embracing them.
Absolutely,
In China, they're embracing the West. So it's a great opportunity for events, for companies that have that added value, which they don't have yet. And that's where, again, when that market opens, you guys must be super busy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No time for sleep.
So where do you see the coming years in terms of 5 and 10 years? Where do you see the biggest challenges? Because we talked about the opportunities. What about the challenges? Where do you see your industry?
Honestly, Simon, I think the challenges are the constant desire for bigger, better, more wow. We spent the last few years on augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality. Where does it stop? When the world's largest drone show was here recently, the Medan races, the World Cup. How do you constantly keep raising that bar in the wow factor? I think it's really challenging because we're always doing amazing stuff, and the industry is always doing amazing stuff. But how to keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it and get incrementally better and better and better? I see. I'm very nervous about it.
You're just happy that you delivered what you wanted.
Exactly. The bar is here. How do we do? How do we deliver better? The next time.
So what about these 6G shows that I saw during New Year's? I don't know if you see the videos.
No.
Yeah. So it was like a 6G New Year's holograms where they just used the whole airspace. The whole open space. It was in Shanghai or Beijing. And it was mind-blowing. I'm like, oh my God. I was just so happy with the drone shows. And I'm like, this is like even beyond the next level. I'm like, how is this happening so fast? And let us first enjoy a little bit
That's right. And I think, if you look at Expo, if you look at the pavilions at Expo and the experiences that were there, sometimes quite prescribed in many ways. You go through a show, whether it's at the start or the middle or the end, and then you have a bit of digital interaction somewhere along the way, and then a little bit of the history or whatever generally. And I found some of the pavilions that there was so much tech for tech's sake. You could just we need over-teching, and I wonder if there's going to be a movement more back to an analog type of environment. Certainly, there was a lot of things that I looked at during Expo, and I just thought, why? Yeah. And how much money they would have spent on that experience just to have a digital engagement, a digital interaction, but it wasn't really meaningful to the country that the participating country. I felt, in my opinion, and I was like, oh gosh, I think I'd like to just rather touch a little plant or something rather than than see a hologram of it. So I don't know if there might be a movement, to become less tech in that sense. Maybe the global semiconductor shortage will force us to go a little bit retro. But that would be my biggest challenge, I think, for the next 5 to 10 years. I'm not the creative. And sometimes I look at my creative team and I think, gosh, how are they going to crack this one, moving forward? So, and, somehow they always manage to come up with the solutions. But, it just worry about how sustainable that is to, continue being an idea factory with these fantastic ideas and engagements. So, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that there will be always a pushback. There's always, if you look at history, when certain things went certain direction, you always had a group that said, no, I want something authentic. I want something how it was. So I'm curious also to see if we still want to meet everybody face to face with events in the future. I would love to, that's possible. And also maybe how the whole sustainability topic might play a role in event industry.
Yeah, that is a hot topic, of course, because the exhibition industry is notoriously wasteful. our materials, building and burning. And I think coming out of the pandemic situation, I see the sustainability topic being taken more seriously now. Yeah. In the past, a lot of greenwashing, and when it actually came to making a decision between being environmentally friendly or not, and it's going to cost you more, generally the decision would be, cheaper option. Yeah, but I see change now already in terms of the mandates from a lot of MNCs. A lot of the multinationals are taking things more seriously in that regard. Well, it still remains to be seen how much the needle will move. Yeah, and I hope it will move. Significantly in terms of the exhibition industry. We're doing what we can, to buy the wood from sustainable forests and things like that. And, there's a lot of moves that we're making to be more sustainable as well. But we need our clients to come on that journey, with us. Yeah. Which I think is great. And eventually when you see more adaptation, then prices will also come down, because the more people use the sustainable products, the better they can produce it also at affordable price. And that's a great development happening. So very exciting times ahead. And I really appreciate talking with you, Carolyn. It was just very, enlightening and very valuable what you shared. So I want to thank you very much for coming. I'd like to thank you as well for inviting me. It's sometimes great just to reflect a little bit, because our world is so fast-paced and you never get a chance to really sit down and think about what's gone before and what's coming up ahead. So I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about it. It's been great. It was my pleasure. For everybody listening, this was Carolyn B., Senior Vice President at Pico Global. Thank you for listening. Thank you for coming, Carolyn. And everybody have a lovely day. Goodbye. Bye-bye.